everyone, welcome back to Excel. Nice meeting you at orientation today. I want to just take a moment to introduce you to some of the basic concepts in Excel, and hopefully it'll make those exercises within the tutorial perhaps a little bit easier. Okay. So before we begin, I kind of want to acquaint you with the basics of an Excel file. So Microsoft Excel is our spreadsheet program, and we are in Book 1. You can see on the title bar, and remember that the title bar always shows you the file that you're in and the application that you're in. So we're in Book 1, and Excel is a little bit different because it has sheets. So think about these as sheets of paper in a notebook or a ledger. So you have sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3, and then you also have a tab to be able to insert additional worksheets. So remember, the basic idea of any Windows environment is everything is an object. So you have to select the object to affect it. So essentially when you click, you're selecting an object. So starting off on this grid area of sheet 1, this is my active sheet because it's selected. If I click the other sheet, that would be my active sheet. So be mindful of that as well. So this is cell A1, and this is considered the home cell position for Excel. And what you have is these columns, which are identified by letters of the alphabet, and then you have rows that are identified with numbers, and the intersection of where those meet is called the cell reference. So right now you're going to see that I have cell C3 as my selected cell. So whatever I do in this cell, it will only be sitting in that C3 cell entry. So I'll just type my name for an illustration. Now whenever I type something into a cell, it doesn't become part of that cell until I hit the enter key. And right now I have not hit the enter key, and you can see my cursor blinking at the end of my name. So once I hit enter, my cursor is not blinking anymore. C3 is no longer my active cell. And then I can use my arrow keys on my keyboard for navigating up or down, left, right, to select a specific cell. So remember, select to affect, super important. Okay, so here is my active cell, cell C3, and I can always know where I am as far as cell reference because over here in my name box, it shows me the cell reference C3. This area right here is called your formula bar, and that is essential because that shows you the content of a cell. So let me take you through a little demonstration and show you the importance of that. So I'm going to just add my name here. And what you're going to see is I have text entered here, and this text is carrying over to column D. So I remember that I put my content, which this is actually a text, so it's a label of some kind, in C3. And over here, it looks like part of it is in D3, but if I select cell D3, I'll be able to see up here on my formula bar that there's nothing in that cell. So whenever you want to actually see the content of a cell, you always select the cell you want to look inside for the content and then take a look up at that formula bar. Okay, so if you're pretty familiar with a Windows environment, you're going to remember that a double-sided arrow on any window will allow you to resize the object. So this is true of regular windows. I can point to the edge of a window and get that double-sided arrow and resize. The corner is always the best because you can resize horizontally and vertically at the same time. So taking that concept of the double-sided resize mode arrow, I can take that and apply that concept to Excel. So here I am in column C, and I want column C to be wide enough to display the content of cell C3. So I can just hover over the line that separates the columns, C from D, and get my double-sided arrow, and then just do a click and drag to make that wider. So whenever you put content into an Excel spreadsheet, you always want to make sure that you can read the content, because data that you can't read is useless. Okay? So see, in this example, I've cut off my name. I've truncated it so you can't see all those characters. So how do I solve that? I resize the column with my double-sided arrow, click and drag. I can also do a quick little double click, and that'll auto fit column C to whatever is the widest entry in column C. So if it had a tremendous amount of data, I could resize it really big with that double click to auto fit it to size. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about the data types of what you can put in an Excel spreadsheet. Basically any character on your keyboard, but it is important to kind of differentiate the difference in the types of data that you are putting into the spreadsheet. So labels really represent text or numeric entries. They're intended to identify something in the spreadsheet, a month, a year, description, etc. So I really could, have something like item, and then apples, oranges, bananas, and these would all be considered labels. So if I were to take this a little bit further and project, maybe I want to know what my sales for January, February, and March. And I'm just hitting tab to move my active cell to the right, and I can arrow to the left, or I can do a shift tab to go backwards. So tab takes me forward in a row, shift tab takes me back. Okay? So these are all considered labels in this example I'm showing you here. They're labels. Okay? So now we're going to talk about numbers, and numbers are just the raw data, raw numbers on the number line. So 0 to infinity and negatives to infinity as well. So I can take apples and say, oh, I had $1,200 in sales in January. So when I'm putting numbers in, I don't really want to worry about formatting. I'm going to use formatting to control the appearance of my numbers later, like establish decimal places, dollar signs, percentages, etc. So I don't have to physically type those in. I can if I want, but I have to still format this cell, remember select to effect, to be able to see those decimal places that I put in there. Okay? So that's a number. And then, so my active cell, I can only have one active cell at any given time, and that's always indicated with the big thick border around that cell. So in the bottom right-hand corner of that is called the fill handle. So when I'm pointing on that corner, I get the solid cross-shaped cursor. And what that does is it fills across columns or rows or both. So if I click and drag this down, it'll go ahead and fill that value down. If I click and drag over, it'll do that same thing. So it's very similar to a copy. So the fill handle has multiple uses. Excel's been pre-programmed to make some assumptions. So we assume February follows January, then January, February, March, etc. So I can use that fill handle, and Excel has been pre-programmed to fill that in for me across those columns. So the last item of our Excel data types I want to point out are formulas, and that's basically the mathematic expression that you're building that you want to perform a specific equation or perform a particular arithmetic. Okay, so if I have values in here, I can actually build a formula to make this work. I want to add up these three amounts here. So all formulas start with an equal. So anytime I want Excel to figure out some math for me, I have to start with an equals. So I hit equals. Now I can type in 100 plus 100 plus 100. And remember, when I'm putting information into a cell, it doesn't become part of that cell until I hit my enter key. So when I'm making a formula, Excel is giving me two views. This is called my answer mode, and then I can look up in my formula bar to see the true content of that cell. So $300 is the answer, but the true content of my cell is shown in the formula bar, which shows that calculation I did equals 100 plus 100 plus 100. The better way to build a formula in Excel is anytime you can make reference to the cell name. Remember up here it tells you the name of the cell and the name box. So if I can reference the cell name instead of the content of the cell, so keep in mind this is my cell name, what's my active cell I have selected, and then this is the content over here shown on my formula bar, what's in that cell. So anytime I can reference the name of the cell, I'm going to be better off because that allows me to automate the task. So let me just give you a contrast here. I'm going to leave this formula with my manual calculation, and then I'm going to come over here and make another column, and I'm just going to keep this simple. But now instead of saying equals 100 plus 100 plus 100, I want to reference these cell names to build the formula. So I go to the cell that I want the answer for my formula to appear, and all formulas start with an equals. So I'm going to hit equals, and then I'm going to select to effect. I'm going to click on the cell I want to use in the calculation. Excel automatically puts the name in there. Now I have to say, okay, Excel, I want to take C13 and I want to add the next cell, which is C14. And all I'm doing is clicking on these, and I'm typing the plus symbol to add, and then I'm clicking on the last cell. Now when I'm finished, I don't ever want to put an operator at the end like plus, minus, multiply, etc., because Excel will anticipate some kind of other reference after that. So when you're finished building your formula, just go ahead and hit enter. Now this gave me the exact same result, but let me show you what happens when I change the Apple figure in January. I've changed it, but it didn't recalculate because I would have to physically go into this formula and add the 100 to get it to calculate correctly. However, because I built a good formula here that's automated with those names of the cell that contain these numeric values, if I change one of those values, Excel recalculates my formula because it's smart enough to go, oh, whatever's sitting in these cells, add them together. Okay, so we talked about the data types in Excel, and the last thing I want to talk about is how you can view your formulas without having to click on the cell to look at the formula bar. So there's a toggle, and if you look at your keyboard, to the left of the number 1 is a left-leaning apostrophe, and above it is the little tilde symbol. So if you hold Control and you hit that little tilde symbol key, the left-facing apostrophe, then that will toggle you back and forth between formula mode. And also when you're finished working on your spreadsheets, you should return to the home position. The shortcut key for that is Control Home and Control S to save. Now remember, when you save your files, it's super important to provide 2 pieces of information. By default, the file name is highlighted for you to give Excel that information. But what a lot of people do is they type that in and then they forget to designate where they want the file to go. So I always recommend select the place that you want to put the file first, get to the folder you want to put it in there, and then you can go ahead and assign your file name. So that's it. Hope you guys have a good week. If you have any questions, go ahead and post those in the discussion board. And that's it. Hopefully you guys will have a great week. Okay, bye.